Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told Us podcast. We have a fascinating story for you today.
Oh, I bet our listeners can guess who we'll be talking about today, right?
Yeah, today we're diving into the world of the one and only Meryl Streep.
I'm so excited to talk about her. She's a legend, truly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 21 Academy Award nominations.
That's right, the record holder.
Yeah, and she's captivating in every role. But, I think a lot of people, when they think of Meryl Streep, they think Oscars, red carpets.
Yeah,
But her path to becoming a Hollywood icon wasn't quite a straight shot.
you're absolutely right. It wasn't like she was born and everyone immediately said, you are going to be a star.
Right.
Her story begins on stage, not on screen.
Oh, interesting. So she honed her craft on Broadway first.
Exactly. And she was great on stage, too. She even got a Tony Award nomination early in her career.
Wow. So she was already making waves in the theater world.
Oh, absolutely. And that foundation in theater is really important. It gave her the tools, the discipline, and I think you can see that in the nuance and the depth of her performances on screen.
That makes sense. That stage background's all about what? The presence, delivery, those kinds of things.
Exactly, exactly. And so even though she's known for her film work, you can really see those roots in her performances.
That's fascinating. So no Hollywood aspirations from the start.
Well, it's interesting because in the early days, she faced a lot of rejection, actually. There's a story, it's kind of become a bit of a legend now.
Okay, let's hear it. I love a good Hollywood story.
During an audition for, of all things, King Kong in 1976,
King Kong, wow.
the producer, Dina De Laurentiis, well, he made a very unkind remark about her looks.
Really? Oh, no.
Yeah, and he said it in Italian, thinking she wouldn't understand.
Oh, that's awful.
But she is fluent in Italian.
Oh, no.
And she fired back with, I'm very sorry that I'm not as beautiful as I should be, but, this is it. This is what you get.
You go, girl. What a response.
Talk about standing up for yourself. Even back then, she had that strength, that confidence.
That's incredible. I mean, to have that kind of presence of mind in what must have been a really intimidating situation, especially early in her career.
It shows you what she's made of.
It really does. So how did she finally make that leap from stage to screen?
Her first film role was actually pretty small in a movie called Julia in 1977.
Julia, okay.
But her real breakthrough, the film that really put her on the map, was The Deer Hunter in 1978.
The Deer Hunter. Ah, yeah. And that's a heavy, intense film.
It is. And you know who played a key role in her getting that part? Robert De Niro.
No way. Really? Robert De Niro? How did that happen?
De Niro had seen her on stage in a production of The Cherry Orchard and was so impressed by her performance.
He must have seen something special in her, even then.
He really did, and he championed her for the role.
Wow.
And, The Deer Hunter, it got a lot of critical acclaim, and she even received her first Oscar nomination for that role.
So from a small part in Julia to an Oscar nomination.
All in about a year.
It sounds like The Deer Hunter was a real turning point in her career.
It absolutely was. It put her in the spotlight. But this period was also, there was some personal tragedy happening at the same time. Her partner at the time, John Cazale, also an actor, very talented, was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Oh, that's so sad. They were a real power couple of the acting world. I read they met doing Shakespeare in the Park.
Yeah, they did.
So romantic.
And they were very devoted to each other. She stayed by his side throughout his illness, even choosing a smaller role in The Deer Hunter so she could be closer to him during filming.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
He sadly passed away in 1978.
What a difficult time that must have been for her.
It was.
But she kept working.
She did, and that same year she had a role in the miniseries Holocaust.
Holocaust, yeah, another really powerful, challenging role.
It was. She played a German woman married to a Jewish artist in Nazi Germany.
Wow. That must have been, talk about emotionally demanding.
It was a really tough role, and she did it with incredible sensitivity. Her performance earned her a Primetime Emmy Award, too.
I can see why it's such a powerful story. And she was brilliant at it. It's amazing to think about that period, Manhattan, with Woody Allen, The Deer Hunter, Holocaust, all within just a few years. That's incredible versatility.
It really is. It was a time when, actresses were often typecast, but she was defying all those expectations right from the start.
Yeah, choosing those complex, challenging roles. So what do you think, what was it about those early performances that allowed her to break through like that? Was it the raw talent, the dedication?
I think it's probably a combination of all those things, but there's something special about her, something that really resonates with audiences.
Yeah, like she has this ability to connect with people on a really deep level.
There's an honesty in her performances, a vulnerability that just draws you in.
Absolutely. You believe her no matter who she's playing.
Exactly. She makes you believe in the characters. And that ability to disappear into a role, to become someone else entirely, that really became her trademark, didn't it?
It did. And it's what we see as we move into the 1980s, the decade that really made her a global icon.
The 1980s, wow, what a decade for Meryl Streep. It's really when she became a global phenomenon.
Yeah, and it all kicks off with a film that I think really shows not just her talent, but also her incredible dedication. I'm talking about Sophie's Choice.
Sophie's Choice. Such a powerful film, so heartbreaking.
It really is. And it's based on a book, right?
It is by William Styron, and it's a complex story about, a Holocaust survivor dealing with unimaginable trauma and guilt. And for this role, Meryl, she didn't just, act. She completely immersed herself in the character.
Yeah, she's known for that kind of deep preparation for her roles, right?
Absolutely. For Sophie's Choice, she not only mastered a Polish accent,
Wow.
but she also learned to speak both German and Polish for the flashback scenes. She wanted everything to be authentic.
That's amazing. I mean, that's a level of commitment that's really inspiring, and I think you could feel that authenticity when you watch her performance.
Absolutely. And it's not just the language. I mean, she even lost a significant amount of weight to portray Sophie's kind of frailty.
Right, the physical toll of what she'd been through.
Exactly. And when you see her in that film, she's so raw, so heartbreaking. It's truly unforgettable.
And she won her second Academy Award for this role, right? Best Actress.
She did, and it was so well deserved. I mean, she poured her heart and soul into that performance.
It's a role that, honestly, it stays with you long after the film is over. But Sophie's Choice was really just the beginning of an incredible decade for her, right?
It was. Think about Out of Africa, that visually stunning film.
Oh, Out of Africa. Beautiful film.
Set in colonial Kenya, she plays Karen Blixen, a Danish author, and once again, she transforms herself completely.
Yeah, the Danish accent is spot on in that one.
It's incredible. She captures the spirit of this woman navigating love, loss, all the challenges of life in a foreign land. And there's an interesting story behind her casting in that film, too.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What happened?
The director, Sidney Pollack, he initially had some doubts about casting her.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't think she was sexy enough for the role.
Oh, wow.
He even considered Jane Seymour, actually.
Oh, interesting.
But during the audition process, she completely won him over.
Well, good for her.
Not with her looks, but with her honesty, her directness. He said she had this incredible ability to connect with people on a really genuine level.
It's like she has this way of just shining through, letting her true self come across, and that's what draws people in.
Exactly. And, at this point in her career, she was commanding a salary of $4 million per film.
Wow. I mean, good for her.
Making her one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood.
Well deserved, I'd say. But I read somewhere that her success, her commitment to, really disappearing into her roles, that it actually sparked some backlash.
Believe it or not, it did. Some critics, they felt that because she didn't have this one singular on-screen persona, as she was always changing, transforming, it made her, in their eyes, less authentic.
That's so strange. It's like criticizing an actor for being too talented.
I know. They questioned, was she really inhabiting the characters or just showcasing her technical skills?
That seems unfair. Isn't that the point of acting?
You would think, but she never let those criticisms slow her down.
That's good.
She kept choosing roles that challenged her, that allowed her to explore the full range of human emotion.
And that brings us to films like Evil Angels, where she played Lindy Chamberlain, the woman wrongly accused of murdering her baby.
Right. A really controversial case.
And She-Devil.
Her first real foray into comedy.
Which is a genre that she, really embraces later in her career.
She does, and both of those films show her fearlessness,
Yeah, she's not afraid to take on touch subjects.
Exactly. She's not afraid to show her comedic timing either.
It's amazing how she just continued to evolve as an actress throughout the 80s. And it's important to remember, too, that during this time, she was also advocating for women in film, speaking out against the limited roles that were available to women, especially as they got older.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just about her own career, She was fighting for change, for more opportunities for women in the industry.
Yeah, she was using her platform to make a difference. And that commitment to challenging the status quo, that's something we see throughout her whole career, right?
It really is, and it's part of what makes her so inspiring, I think.
Absolutely. And as we move into the 1990s, well, she faces a whole new set of challenges, both personally and professionally. But that's a story for the next part of our deep dive. Before we get to the 90s and beyond, a quick reminder to our listeners, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the final part of our deep dive into the extraordinary career of Meryl Streep.
So we're into the 2010s now, and Meryl's career is still going strong. In fact, she takes on one of the most I guess you could say, formidable figures in modern politics. Margaret Thatcher.
Oh yeah, the Iron Lady, I remember that. It was such a transformation.
It really was, and she wins her third Oscar for it.
Wow, yeah.
It's an incredible performance. It wasn't just playing Thatcher, it was like becoming her. The voice, the mannerisms, that unwavering determination. She really did her homework for that role. Spent months studying Thatcher's speeches and interviews. I even read that she went to sessions of the House of Commons just to observe how British parliamentarians interacted.
Oh wow. She goes all in, doesn't she?
She does. But taking on such a, well, polarizing figure, it must have been tough, right? I mean, not just the performance itself, but the potential for criticism.
Oh, for sure.
And there were some who felt the portrayal wasn't totally accurate, or that it maybe leaned too heavily on sympathy for Thatcher's political views.
Right, right.
But even with all that, you can't deny how powerful her performance was. She brought a depth, a humanity to a character who often seemed, well, one-dimensional.
It's interesting how art can spark those kinds of debates, isn't it?
It is. It reminds us of how powerful stories can be and how they can make us rethink how we see people and events.
Makes you think. And Meryl, I mean, she never shied away from those kinds of challenges. She kept picking roles that pushed boundaries, that made people face some tough truths.
Absolutely. And speaking of tough truths, there's August, Osage County, a raw look at a dysfunctional family dealing with all sorts of things, addiction, secrets, you name it.
Oh yeah, that was intense. A real ensemble piece too, right?
It was, and the whole cast was amazing. But Meryl, as the matriarch, Violet Weston, she was just riveting. She captured that character's bitterness, but also her wit and that vulnerability underneath it all.
Yeah, she's so good at making us empathize with characters who are, let's face it, not always likable.
It's true, and I think that's a real testament to her talent, to how deeply she understands human nature. It's not about judging the characters, it's about inhabiting them, showing us that they're real people shaped by their experiences, not just villains or heroes.
And that ability to connect with us like that, on that emotional level, that's what makes her so great. And her work in the 2010s didn't stop there. The Post, for example. She played Katharine Graham, the publisher of the Washington Post, during the whole Pentagon Papers situation.
Oh, yes, The Post. So timely, too, with its message about freedom of the press and the courage it takes to stand up for what's right.
And Meryl, she nailed it as Katharine Graham. You could feel her strength, her intelligence, the weight of those decisions she had to make.
Another Oscar nomination for that role, too, her 21st.
It's pretty amazing. She keeps delivering these incredible performances, decade after decade. And it seems like she's always willing to try new things, experiment with different genres.
It's true. Like, she was fantastic in The Prom on Netflix, a fun musical, and she showed off her comedic side, her singing, too.
Yeah, she can do it all.
And then there's Only Murders in the Building. She plays a struggling actress, lots of sharp wit, and a bit of a mysterious past.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. She seems to be having fun with it.
It just shows how versatile she is. And how, even after all this time, she's still pushing herself creatively.
It's inspiring, really. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Meryl Streep's incredible career, it's clear she's more than just an actress, right?
Oh, absolutely.
She's a cultural icon, an advocate for change, an inspiration to so many.
She's raised the bar for actors everywhere. And her legacy, it's going to be felt for a long, long time.
She's shown us that age doesn't have to limit you, and that with hard work and a little bit of risk-taking, you can achieve anything.
I think it's safe to say Meryl Streep, she's a national treasure. Her contributions to film and theater, they're just immeasurable.
Well said. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the captivating world of Meryl Streep. We hope you enjoyed this journey through her life and career.
We hope it's made you want to revisit some of her films, or maybe even discover some you haven't seen before.
Thanks for joining us on Tell Me More Stories Told As podcast.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those stories coming. THR